Michigan's native brook trout, the state fish, and an ancient symbol that holds great cultural and traditional importance. These fish are seen to be as indicator species, meaning their status reflects the overall health of a watershed. As well as a food source, the native tribes observed the presence of brook trout as a sign of a healthy and clean water source. Brook trout thrive in only the coldest and cleanest water, so the presence of strong wild brook trout demonstrate that the ecosystem is healthy and the water quality is excellent. They say natural trout coexist with natural beauty, and I agree. It's all the more reason to come back to the Mitten State to chase these fish. Last year we planned a week-long trip with our sights set on brookies that I called the Mitten Chronicles. It was a brutal week for fishing. Terrible weather, personal injuries, and loss, including both our kayaks, were all part of the struggle. We did end up hitting the bullseye and landed one brook trout, but after editing and after the end credits rolled, we needed to bounce back. We needed a redemption story, so I titled it as a part 1, with the intention of going back and finishing out the story. So, here it is, the long-awaited continuation of the Mitten Chronicles, our search for Michigan's native brook trout, part 2. This June, while fishing and filming our video Fish Camp Diaries, a week of fly fishing the Hiawatha National Forest, I was able to sneak away from the boat a couple of times to chase this gem of the UP, my favorite fish, the brook trout. I wanted to check back on some old friends. This pond that we visited a few years in a row is easily one of my favorite trout spots. This little lake in the Valley of Pines is a scene out of the backcountry Canada without ever having to cross state lines. Of course, we forgot the paddles for the kayaks, so we made do with some broken sticks that we found on the forest floor. Dry droppers with caddis straws and tiny midges were the golden ticket. With multiple hookups and a few fish, it made our short checkup on this pond more than worth it. I'll never get over the amount of trout opportunity that comes with the Upper Peninsula. Every creek and river is teeming with life. Even small ponds and lakes here have trout. I've been coming here to these woods since I could walk, and I've been fishing since before I could even do that. And I can't even believe I didn't start trout fishing until right before I moved out west. My dad was never a trout fisherman, or a fly fisherman for that matter. When my sister and I were kids, he used to take us bluegill fishing at the lake down the road. Bluegills graduated to bass, bass graduated to muskies, then muskies to walleye, but never trout. During last year's fishing trip, even though we only caught one brookie, I was finally able to teach my dad something about fishing that he didn't know: how to target trout. He caught his first rainbow trout, and then several more after that, creating some great moments and checking a new species off the list for him. This year, I'm attempting to do the same thing once again for him. I found another block of time before camp dinner to chase these native trout, and I asked my dad if he'd tag along with me. Now, my dad has never fly fished, and he hates kayaks. Combining the two could be a recipe for disaster. But with caution, I helped him launch his boat into the small tributary beaver pond and helped tie him on an indicator and infrarig. To my surprise, and with very little instruction, his casts got better and better, and in no time, he hooked into his very first native northern Michigan brook trout and his very first fish caught on the fly rod. Dad's first brook trout. Let's see it. See it.
Oh, there you go.
The colors and spots of these fish and the places they live in aren't the only reasons they're my favorite. It's also because of all the memories I've made with my wife, brother, and now my dad fishing for them. It brings a wonderful layer of sentimental to the beauty of these fish and the beauty of these places. Catching these fish in irregularly stocked still water is one thing, and it's great, but I wanted to take it to the next level. I wanted to catch a wild, native brook trout. I had one more chance to chase these fish before we had to leave fish camp, so I decided to do it alone. There's a bigger river nearby, known for its wild brook trout, so with a couple hours before dinner, I set out by myself to chase these wild natives. The river was gorgeous, and just pulling up to one of the access points, I was already seeing signs of fish. But I was unprepared. This area was in a tight spot. With overhanging trees, I could barely do a roll cast. I could see fish taking drakes off the surface, 40 feet away, but I had no way of getting to them. On my last pair of wearable pants and no laundry services under 50 miles away, I couldn't afford wet waiting to reach these fish, so I just watched for a bit. Then traveled to another spot upriver. Upstream, it was the same story. Plenty of fish, hard access, and the reminder that I can't do any laundry for another day and a half. To say the least, I was pretty frustrated. It was about time for me to come back to camp for dinner anyways, so I made my way back to the truck. One of the great things about being so far back in the wild is not having any distracting cell service. One of the worst things? Also not having cell service. I got turned around by all the Forest Service logging roads and couldn't even load up my maps to see where I was. I was 100% lost. I had zero clue where I was. So I just pointed the headlights north and prayed I'd hit the Superior shoreline at some point. Funny thing is, during that time I spent looking for a road, I was never worried or even angry anymore. I took that time to do something I should probably do way more often. Have a heartfelt, sincere conversation with the Lord. That drive turned out not to just be an unplanned detour, but a refresher for my soul and well-needed quality time with my Creator. I finally hit a highway. I knew I first had to go east and then south, but I finally got a bar of service, so I tried to load up maps and was only able to load up my immediate area, but what caught my eye was a tiny blue line. I felt the call to make a stop and just sit for a while, so I did. It was beautiful. Spring waterfalls, black rock faces, and the sound of rushing water just felt like a gift from heaven. Then I felt something funny. Something like I was being given permission. Permission once again to try for a native wild trout. I went back to the truck and grabbed my fly rod. No net, no change of flies, no gear. Just a little beadhead leash that I had on. As I made my way back out, I went off the beaten path to venture further upstream. It was a northward stream. A tiny stream, big falls, and the smell of spruce and pines in this seemingly untouched land made it feel like I was pioneering this creek for the very first time. I was spooking some small fish here and there, but I wasn't sure what they were at first. I was just stoked to see some life in this little creek. Then, I finally came up on the perfect spot, with the perfect vantage point, and decided to shoot my shot.
Alright, so we just came up on this nice little foamy spot right here. I'm gonna cast up into this little pool here. There's some kind of stiller water over here, and there's another little swirling pool right over here. Let's hope there's gonna be some fish hanging around and seeing if they're willing to bite the white leech.
And what do you know? Turns out there are wild trout here in this tiny creek after all. These fish were just as gorgeous as they were small, but it was just what I was looking for. After bookmarking the creek and looking it up on trout trails, it turns out the creek isn't even listed. It was absolutely amazing to find loads of these wild fish in water that's not even recognized as trout stream. These brook trout, native and wild, probably having never seen a fly, reminded me of God's goodness and His love for me.
Alright, so I just hit this run to these little pools with some foam. We got 3 brook trout already. Super cool to get into these wild fish. It's just, they're so gorgeous. They're so small, but they're so perfect. It's just crazy. We love UP. We love Upper Peninsula, Michigan. These small creeks and just these waterfalls. It's just God's country. It's just amazing.
What started as an unprecedented delay and pit stop turned into a beautiful moment of reconnecting with God and once again revealing more and more of Himself to me through the words of His Spirit and through the fingerprints He's left on creation.